him as he climbed the hill and sat down, surrounded by his disciples. It was near the feast of the Passover, celebrated annually by the Jews. And when Jesus saw this large crowd, he said to Philip, "Where can we find bread to feed these people?" And it was a set-up question because he was not asking Philip for his advice. He was setting up a situation in which he would reveal his majesty through a miracle with a boy's lunch and 2 fish. We live in a time where we are most likely to feel the greed that is among us. Described in the motto, "Get all you can all you get, then sit on the can." There seemed to be a bent of the intent of Trumpism in headlines that report, "Sit on the can of tariffs, then all you get, you can swell your pockets." That is, the pockets of the rich and the powerful, with no concern for the least of these. So when Philip saw the people of 2,000, and it was a crowd that Andrew said, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But that's not enough to feed the crowd." But Jesus said, "Make the people sit down on the green grass in this place." And they sat down, and Jesus took the bread and gave thanks and gave it to them all who were seated. The question is, why did the boy do what he did the way he did it? Maybe his mother had told him who Jesus was and sent him to get in the crowd where Jesus would be preaching. We don't know what the boy's name was. We don't know what the mother's name was. All we know is that they were willing to do what Jesus said to do, and they went where he said they should go. So the question is, what are we willing to do, and what are we willing to give up? The answer requires a faith that defies defeat. The boy gave up what is said in verses 12 through 13, that when the people had eaten their meal, Jesus said to his disciples, "Go gather the leftovers so that nothing is waste." And when they did, Jesus asked them to fill 12 baskets with leftovers so that nothing would be wasted. It is amazing how God can do what he can with willing hands. The boy made himself available. That's what has inspired our elders to say, "The Lord will make a way somehow. If you trust and never doubt, he will surely bring you out. The Lord will make a way somehow." And so in this text, I just want to lift up three things that this boy did that is worthy of our attention. First of all, he made himself available. We don't know his name. We don't know his mother's name. There was nothing to suggest that there was anything very special about him, except he was willing to do and place his lunch in the hands of Jesus. He was willing to give up what he had when Jesus asked him. So the first question is, how did he get there in the first place, and why did he make his lunch available at the Lord's request? We don't know his name. We don't know where he came from. We don't know anything about his family. All we know is that he was prepared to give up 5 loaves and 2 fish into the hands of Jesus. In other words, he was in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Wonder how he got there. The record is that Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said, there's a little boy here who has 5 loaves and 2 fish, but that's only a drop in the bucket for the crowd of 5,000. But Jesus made the people sit down and said to them, as he took the bread, he gave thanks, gave it to those who had been seated, and he did the same with the fish, and everybody ate as much as they wanted. Again, we don't know who this boy was. We don't know his mother's name. We don't know where he came from. All we know is he was available at the right time, in the right place, to do what the Lord had commanded. The first step was that he was willing. He was not empty-handed. He had something in his hand, but he was willing to give it up. And so the first question comes is, are you willing to offer up what you have in the Lord's, to the Lord's hand and command? This is a season that is celebrated as Lent, when we give up something for Lent. Well, that's kind of sort of what we do. But I went to a Catholic school because my mother felt that they offered a better education than the public school. And Lent was a time when everybody had to declare that they would give up something. They would have to announce what you're going to give up for Lent. In this passage, when the people had eaten their portion of what had been provided, Jesus said to his disciples, gather the leftovers so that nothing will be wasted. And they went to work and filled up 12 baskets. God will supply all our needs according to his riches in glory. And sometimes his riches bless us beyond the request. And then they declare that he doesn't do any more. If he doesn't do any more than what he's already done, he's already done enough. And so in verses 14 and 15, the people realized that Jesus had done, and they said, this prophet is from Galilee. And Jesus saw their enthusiasm, and they were about to grab him and make him, so he slipped out and went back to the mountain by himself. The passages here break down in three ways. He made himself available to this mother and son. They were nothing special. In fact, all we know is they were there. And the boy was willing to place his lunch in the hands of Jesus. Then he was willing to give up what he had when Jesus asked him. Maybe, just maybe, this boy And Jesus saw their enthusiasm, and they were about to grab him and make him, so he slipped out and went back to the mountain by himself. He made himself available to this mother and son. There was nothing special about them either, except that the boy was willing to place his lunch of 5 loaves and 2 fishes in the hand of Jesus. Then he was willing to give up what he had when Jesus asked him. And the boy happened to be in the right place at the right time. Maybe, just maybe, this boy and his mother, whose names we don't know, can inform us on how to walk in the way that Jesus leads us. I'm having some crazy techno problems here. Thank you for your patience. Oh. Hmm. 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 It was near the feast of the Passover, which was celebrated annually by the Jews. And Jesus saw this crowd and said to Philip, "Where can we buy bread to feed these people?" There was a kind of a set-up question, but he was not asking for advice. He was setting up a situation in which he could reveal his majesty through a miracle that this boy's lunch would be sufficient to feed 5,000, 5 loaves and 2 fish. We live in a time of get all you can and can all you get. Remember where and why Jesus said, "Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, you have done it unto me." And Philip saw the people and that there was not enough for the crowd of 5,000 folks. And Andrew said, "There's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but there's enough to feed this crowd." But Jesus said, "Make the people sit down on the green grass in this place." And as they sat down, Jesus took the bread, gave thanks, gave it to all of them who were seated. Why did the boy do what he did the way he did it? Glad you asked. Maybe his mother told him who Jesus was and sent him to get in the crowd. We don't know his name. We don't know his mother's name. All we know is the boy was willing to give up his lunch to the Lord. Again, we don't know the boy's name or his mother's name. All we know is that he was willing to do what Jesus said do. So the boy was willing to take his lunch to Jesus, give him up. So the question comes to us, when and how are we willing to give up what we have when at the Lord's command? The question that requires, the boy gave up in verses 12 through 13. And when the people had eaten their meal, Jesus said to his disciples, "Go gather up the leftovers so that nothing will be wasted." And when they did that, Jesus asked them to fill 12 baskets of these leftovers. It is amazing what God can do when we are willing to give up. Where there is a will, there is a way. And Jesus fed 5,000 with this boy's lunch. And that is what inspired our elders to say, the Lord will make a way somehow, anyhow. And if you trust and never doubt, he will surely bring you out. 3 things this boy did that are worthy of our attention. First, he made himself available. We don't know his name. We don't know his mother's name. There's nothing to suggest anything about him, except that he had 2 fish and 5 loaves that he put into the hands of Jesus. Jesus asked him, he was willing to give up what he had and put it in the hands of Jesus. We don't know his name, where he came from, his family, but he did the right thing in the right place to do the right at the right time. Now, I wonder how he got there. Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said, "There's a little boy here who has these fish." And he took the bread and he gave it to Jesus. Jesus took the bread, gave thanks, and gave it to all those who had been seated. But the first step was that he was willing. He was willing to offer what he had in order for it to feed a large crowd. This is the season of Lent. And I went to a Catholic school because my mother felt it offered a better education than the public school. And Lent was a time that you would declare what you were going to give up. And when the people had eaten their portion of what Jesus had provided, he said to them, "Gather up the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." And they went to work and filled 12 baskets of leftover. Once upon a time, during midweek prayer meetings, there were both appeals made to God to help, but it also came testimonies of what God had already done. And they declared that if he hadn't done any more, he's already done enough. And in verses 14 through 15, the people realized what Jesus had done, and they said, "This is a prophet who was from Galilee." Jesus saw their enthusiasm, and they were about to grab him, but he slipped off, went back to the mountain by himself. So in summary, 3 things. He made himself available to his mother and son. There was nothing about them that was special. He was willing to give what he had when Jesus asked for it. And the boy was in the right place at the right time. Where God guides, he will provide. Be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. God will take care of you. With a large lunch, he fed 5,000. To God be the glory for the things he has done and getting ready to do.